Okay, so today we are going to be learning about the human nervous system. So the human nervous system is made up of the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system includes the brain and the spinal cord. So the brain is in our head and it controls all of our bodily functions and is where we think. And the spinal cord runs from the bottom of the brain all the way down to the bottom of our back. And these two are what makes up the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system are all of the nerves that are part of the body. They run from the brain and from the spinal cord all the way to the tips of our fingers, all the way down to the tips of our toes. So what the peripheral nervous system does is both it controls the movement of our arms and our legs, and it also can feel what we touch. So there are different what the different senses are sensed by things in our skin called receptors. And receptors detect a change in environment, or otherwise known as a stimulus. This information is carried to the central nervous system, and then this information is carried from the central nervous system, the brain or the spinal cord, to the effectors, which are things like our muscles or glands, which release hormones. So the different types of stimuli can all be detected using the five sensory organs. The receptors detect change in the environment, which is also known as a stimuli or stimulus. So can you think of which stimuli all of these sensory organs can sense? So our hands can sense touch, our mouths and tongue can sense taste, our ears can sense sound, and our nose can sense smell, and finally our eyes detect light. So our nose and mouth actually detect changes in chemicals, which leads to our taste, so how things can taste sweet or sour, and then chemicals are also what causes us to smell nice things or horrible things. So in order for us to be able to smell these things and react to them, or touch things and react to them, the information must be carried through from the receptors to the central nervous system to the effectors. And the things that carries this information are neurons. There are three different types of neurons. There are sensory neurons, motor neurons, and relay neurons. So sensory neurons pick up the sense, so they can pick up the smell or touch or sound. The motor neurons are the neurons which cause an effect, so either that we chew because we taste or that we move our hand away from something that's hot. And our relay neurons carry information between both sensory and motor neurons. So even though these three different types of neurons are all different, there are some similarities. So the main similarities are that they all have a cell body which has all of the information that the cell needs to live, and so it knows what to do. There are dendrites which pick up the information from either the sensory stimulus or from other neurons. The axons carry the information from the cell body to other neurons or to muscles or to the brain. So the information always comes into the cell body through the axons and then out of the smaller axons at the bottom. So now we know what neurons are and how they link together. Can you work out which neurons link which part of this arc together? So the first one, from receptors to central nervous system, would be the sensory. So the sensory neurons pick up the change in stimulus. So if there's something hot or you feel something, this then carries information to the brain or spinal cord, which make up the central nervous system. And in the central nervous system is where the relay neurons are, which carry information from the sensory to the motor neuron. So the relay neurons are in the brain or in the spinal cord. And finally, the motor neurons are the neurons which carry the information from the central nervous system to the effectors such as muscles or glands. And finally, we have a nice diagram which just summarizes all of that information together. It should come up in a second. There we go. So here we have all of the sensory neurons and the relay neurons which comprise all that happens. So for example, if your hand touches a flame, you get a you can feel that it's really, really hot, and in faster than light almost, it moves, the information is carried from the hand through the sensory neuron to the spinal cord, which is the central nervous system, where the information is transferred between a sensory neuron to the motor neuron using the relay neuron. And then from the relay neuron, the information is transferred to the motor neuron, where the information is then carried to the muscle, which will contract our hand to come away.